Move that around a bit. Hello, looks like I'm live. Just trying to make sure I'm all plugged in and that my microphone is picking me up. Yep, that looks okay. My microphone is picking up me down here and is off camera, which is good. So this is a bit of a last minute-ish thing. I thought about doing it the other day and then decided I would actually go through with it, of coming on here live, just trying to make sure the camera and everything's fine. So I see a couple of you there. Thank you for liking the content. So you can just about see the owl peeping over the corner. I can't find my purple pen, so I've currently just got a bog standard black one, for those of you who know I prefer purple pens. And for anyone who hasn't joined me previously, anyone who hasn't joined me here previously, how this works is, obviously, thank you for actually joining me. How this works is that for the first 30 minutes or so, I will chat with you guys, answer any questions or whatever you post over in that side bit in the live chat. And I will then get ideas from yourselves. And if I can keep on track, I will then at 10:30 my time start some kind of sleep meditation thing at that time. At 10:30. So anyone watching this after I've recorded it, feel free to skip the first 30 minutes if you really don't like me, like hearing one-sided conversations, and just skip through 30 minutes in and you'll find the story. Frequently people are kind and they go and do a timestamp to the start of it, so that may well happen if I forget. And then if someone does that, I'll pin that as the first comment on the video. So I end up just writing down people's ideas in my notepad and then hope that my brain can do something with those ideas back for you. So far I've been okay at this, but there's always that kind of worry that I won't know what to say. But, that's the fun of this. So let's have a look at who's here. So yeah, some of you are familiar faces, I recognise, or familiar names even. I'm often asked, I'm part of a sort of a network of a sort of company that tries to support creators in to try, I don't sell it well. Well, anyone who actually follows my channel will know what my stories, my meditations end up like. But yeah, so I'm with a company that tries to help creators to gain viewers and subscribers. It's not really working out for my channel specifically, but there you go. But one thing I'm always told to do is that I should use the super chats and things like that. So any of you who do live chats with other creators probably know that people can pay to have their comment hang around longer and get bumped up among everything. And I don't do it because I don't think it's very fair. So if someone can't really afford to be giving me money so that I can read their comment, I don't think that's really fair on that individual. They might have a really good thing to say and I might overlook it because I'm too busy looking at and responding to the people who've paid me money. And I have never wanted this to be something where I'm only going to use your ideas if you've paid me, kind of thing. I've always wanted it to be free for all. So if I miss your idea, it's because I genuinely missed it. If there's too many comments, as there occasionally has been, and I've just overlooked a comment or something. And even if I do write a comment down, obviously on my pad, there's always that chance that I just, for whatever reason, either forget to include it, because I'm trying to, obviously, those of you who've joined me here quite often know that when I do this, I am totally just ad-libbing a story based on whatever ideas you give me. And I'm trying to do that in real time for any of you who are falling asleep. So obviously for people in the UK, when I start the story, it's going to be 10:30 at night. Some people in the UK and other areas on the same time zone may be wanting to fall asleep at that time. And so you can't have me pausing for ages where it's just because I'm trying to find a word, thinking, oh, have I done every word? So I try not to sort of do that. So yeah, some people, in relation to the stories I'm releasing with things like bird sounds or whatever, if it's distracting, then it's just distracting. The idea is all my stories are obviously released without any music at all, any music or sound effects or anything. But what I'm doing, because one of the most frequent things I get asked in my comments, or told, normally it's told, not asked, normally it's you need to do it like this, is that I should add background music and sound effects and things. And the ones I've often spoken about this, so sorry for those of you who see me a lot. I listen to stories, sort of sleep meditation stories that have sound effects. I like ones with sound effects. I like ones that if it talks about rowing down the Amazon, you hear the sound of rowing down the Amazon. If it talks about going through a forest, you hear the sounds of being in a forest. And so that's what I like, because if someone tells me to visualize something, I just see black in my mind's eye. I don't see anything. And I find it more absorbing if I've got something tangible going into my senses that's kind of reminiscent of what I'm trying to visualize. So if something talks about me visualizing being in a forest, then obviously if I can hear sounds of birds in a forest and hear the sound of footsteps of walking through a forest, I've already got one sense being fulfilled with sensory input, if that makes sense. And so I've, for probably nearly 20 years, made my own tracks for myself that have sound effects and things. But also I use, I've talked about this before, Meditainment tracks. They're a company that do like meditation stories, and they have sound effects. And so kind of to do something I like doing a bit more than just telling the stories or whatever, and to do something that's more like I like listening to, I thought, right, I'm going to go through my back catalogue. I've got like 170 stories or whatever on my channel. I'm going to go through them from sort of ones 170 stories ago and add in the sound effects I would like to hear in them and add in music I want to hear in it. So I obviously couldn't care less whether other people like it or not for those specific tracks, because I'm doing it what I want at the time of recording it, thinking, oh, I quite like that, I quite like this, and I quite like the creativity of figuring out how to make sounds. So for example, the dragons breathing in the, can't remember the name of it, but the cafe one that I released a couple of weeks ago, is the sound of a horse breathing slowed right down and deepened. So and then sped up, if that makes sense. So the dragon's breathing is and it's two parts to it, but what I had was the sound of a horse going like that, and so I just slowed that right down and deepened it, and then I sped it up for the breathing, the sort of for the breathing in part. And I quite liked doing things like that and having that sort of creativity. But I know a number of people who are long time and obviously newer people, viewers of my channel and listeners to my stories, especially with birds, don't like bird sounds, whether it's because of it being associated with alarm clocks, as mentioned, or whatever else. And I know that a lot of comments. So I get a lot of comments saying add in sounds, etc. Um, a lot of comments I also get are, I've subscribed to your channel because I love that your stories don't have any other sounds and things. They just are you talking. Um, so I'm aware that most people probably subscribe to me for that reason, but at the same time, and so that's why that's why I'm only doing it with my back catalogue. It's not like I will make a story out of whatever I do here tonight, and that won't, for probably a year or so, have this story turned into one with background sounds. So it's kind of trying to say, like, I'm releasing all my normal content, and you can listen to everything I release with sounds. You can listen to the version that doesn't have sounds, and you've been able to for like a year or 2 or 3 or 4 years or whatever. So that's kind of what I'm doing. So yeah, so every single one, and I sort of say all this in the description, but I know that, for example, I watch a lot of videos on my TV, and I can't see descriptions on the TV. I can't comment on the TV, so I can't see comments or anything. So it does depend what device you're using. But in the descriptions, I always say these are this is one that already has been released, and it's this is just the music version, and or the sort of sound effects version. So yeah, so for example, I did my Adventures of a Prince one, which I initially recorded in 2003 or so. I then did an updated version because the sounds of that were really crackly because I was recording it on my normal computer using the old mic. I don't even know if laptops have it now, but the old microphone app thing that used to come up if you kind of went to the Windows button and selected microphone. And I recorded it on that at like, I don't know, 26 kilobytes or something stupid quality, really low quality. And obviously back then the hard drive was much smaller, and that's about all it could take. So I recorded this really low crackly quality version, released it on YouTube in 2007, re-released it with music in 2008, re-released it again with some sound effects of birds and things in 2000 and I think 15, maybe something like that, or 14, something like that. And didn't realize that birds were going to annoy people. So when I released that, I had one of the first comments was, I'll get onto that comment in a minute. Yeah, one of the first comments was, "Why have you got birds and shit in this relaxation track? I don't listen to something like this to relax, to listen to birds. I hate the sound of birds." And that at the time surprised me because it was about walking through a forest, and so it was bird sounds. And I thought that people thought similar to me at that point. But yeah, so the Adventure of a Prince story has actually been my second most popular, sort of all-time most popular story, I think. The first one was a deep trance experience one I did years ago. So yeah, my first track was a deep trance experience one that was my most popular of all time track, and then the second one was the Adventure of a Prince one, and I've remade that in 2016. I think I re-recorded the whole thing, so I put headphones on, listened to the Adventures of a Prince in my ears, and spoke what I was listening to, so that I could re-record exactly the same track, but with new microphones and things, so that it was much better quality. And obviously now I've just done it remade again, so with sound effects going through it, noisy motorbikes going past outside. So yeah, Toby Sivia's music is very good. He was 15 or so when he created the music for me. I worked with his dad, and I said to his dad, "Oh, would your son, who was studying music and plays cello, would he come and just create some relaxing music for me. Just come and ad lib it, just like I do with my stories. Would he do the same but with music, and just come, and I've got like an electric piano, and I've got a guitar, and he can bring his cello, and I'll just set up microphones and he can just crack on and ad lib something. And so he did. Another motorbike. And so yeah, I'm just scrolling back up the comments. So yeah, so Toby came around and recorded those bits for me, and I've used some bits and pieces on and off over the years in videos I've done, and obviously used the guitar at the beginning of all of my videos. And people often ask me about the guitar and say they'd like to hear the full song or whatever. So eventually, I just thought I may as well release all the 3 tracks that I've got of it. So that's what I did. Right, let me just have a look at what people have written. Yeah, someone about to go to sleep. That's good. Never watched a stream before, but watch basically every video I upload. That's very kind. See, this is the bit that people who are watching not live would think, oh God, he's just staring at the notifications, staring at the live chat bit, trying to read it. Yeah, there's always a dilemma. I joked, those of you who joined me on the streams when I was doing this every week, which I might go back to doing every week, but on the Monday again, I know that was a better day for some. I did I think it was about 100-minute long story one night, and I did say on Facebook, because I often pop over to Facebook, to the Facebook group afterwards, just for if anyone has any questions or whatever about what I've done. And I did say over there, I've just ad libbed the whole story for 100 minutes. I bet the first comment on the video when I post it, the edited version of it, will be, love it, worked really well, I was asleep in 5 minutes. And I may as well have not recorded the other sort of 95 minutes of it. And that is what happened. I think there was a comment, one of the first comments was, brilliant story, fell asleep in 5 minutes. Well, I carry on talking for another 95. Stories are magical. Da, 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 da. In relation to complaints about the pauses, it's kind of an odd one. That this relates also. I'm reading higher up than the comment I said I'll stop and mention in a minute. It's kind of an odd one because I never ever, obviously, face to face get that comment. So I will do therapy with people, and I'll sit opposite someone, and I'll pause for maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, even perhaps 15 minutes, and then I'll start talking again. Never get a complaint, never phases anyone. It's very common for people to think, oh yeah, I'd totally forgotten that you were there. So it's very common when people feedback afterwards that when I started talking again, they suddenly thought, oh, I totally forgot you were there. I lost all track of time. I went so incredibly deep into myself and into my experience that I just totally forgot that I was in a room and that you were sat opposite me and watching me or whatever. But I've never face to face had someone say it kind of startled them more than it just bringing their awareness back to, oh yeah, I forgot that we're taking part in something here. And that's always been the same, even when I've done therapy via Skype or whatever, or even during live streams like this. I'll pause longer during a live stream than the end result will be, because I will be looking at my notes and thinking, have I covered everything? And so I might take just a few seconds longer just to look at my notes. And I've never yet had someone say to me, oh, during the live stream, oh, you paused for too long, and it jolted me out of it. But in my actual recorded tracks, again, it never used to happen. So I've been posting these things since 2007. never happened in 2007 or 2008 or 2009 or 2010. It literally is something that only started happening in about 2016-ish. I started getting these comments saying, you know, why the long pauses, when you talk after pausing, it jolts me awake or it jolts me alert. Part of my thinking is then you've probably got the volume too loud, because if it's loud enough to make it so that my voice talking jolts you awake, the chances are it's probably too loud volume. It might not be, but there's a chance of that. But yeah, it's just one of those things. It seems to be a more recent phenomena. Part of why I thought it was happening um, was that a lot of people listen to my tracks thinking that they're just me telling a story and not realizing that I'm doing a meditation. And when you listen to a meditation, I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of meditations by different people on my Walkman that I listen to. None All of them have lots of pausing in them. That's a large part of learning what to do meditation, is that you learn and put pauses in everything. And you know that you get taught that silence deepens the inner experience because it gives the person time to focus inwardly on what's been asked of them, whether it's focusing on mental imagery, whether it's focusing on eliciting some kind of feeling or sensation, or just having that time to allow themselves to continue to deepen their experience. So when you learn hypnosis or when you learn meditation, you always learn, make sure you talk slow, talk measured, give plenty of pausing in what you're doing so that people have time to actually do the inner work, time to access, what they need to in their mind and all the rest of it, and time for the body to relax. If you're doing something where you're trying to relax someone, then they need to be able to relax their body. And most people can't just do that in quick succession. They need time to do it. You also get taught that you should be talking when someone is breathing out and pausing for the whole time that the person's breathing in. So, for example, if you're sat opposite me in a real session with me, I might say, okay, just take a moment and I see them breathing in. So I pause and then I see them start breathing out. So begin to relax. That's it, all the way, deeper and deeper relaxed. And so I'll say all that while they're breathing out, and then they breathe in. So I pause again, don't say anything while they breathe in. And then when they next breathe out, I then talk again. So you're matching the rhythm of that person that you're working with. Um, Obviously, I can't do that 100% on a pre recorded thing or even a live thing like this, because I can't know what anyone's doing on the other end of the camera listening to me. So those of you who are leaving the stream, I know obviously most parts of the world it's not nighttime. I will post the link to this for those who want to catch it later. Someone else saying about needing sound effects. So someone had asked about, could I create a playlist of all the ones with sound effects and things? I do have that. I was quite pleased with the dragon breath as well. What does my shirt say? I'm not perfect, but I'm always myself. That's what my shirt says. I wouldn't know any other way than ad-libbing. It's very odd I can't slow myself down. So if I was to try and do this not ad-libbing and to try and write it down, I'd have to slow everything down and be in a different mental state to do it. And ad-libbing is essentially what you do in therapy. A client comes in, they say, I've got this problem, I've got this thing I want to achieve, so this is the solution. This is the way from the problem to the solution. Okay, these are the metaphors I've given you. Like they might say, I've reached a fork in the road. I just feel like I'm treading water in my life. I just need to gain perspective. They use all these metaphors, and you listen out for all the metaphors, and then you just ad lib something back to them that takes all the metaphors they've just given you and turn them into some nice, hopefully coherent story or something that's therapeutic to that individual, using their metaphors that they've used, but finding solutions. So if someone says, I feel like I'm just stuck in a rut, you might tell a story that includes having some kind of a hole or a rut, and how having the character in the story escape from that rut through some kind of, I don't know, ingenuity or something that relates specifically to how they need to be thinking about their problem instead, so that they can get out of their rut. So let's have a look. Uh, yeah, people like the longer stories. As I've often sort of explained, I can't force a length of story. Um, it ends up being whatever it ends up being. When I'm recording them on my own, so when I'm sat in here in this exact seat with a microphone on in front of me, I can't. I've got this kind of right. I want it to definitely be that I've recorded for 30 minutes, because then after editing, hopefully it's still over 25 minutes. So like I'll edit out if a motorbike or something goes past. I'll edit out errors, um, etc. But beyond that, and if I don't hit that, I just scrap that story. And so I have lots of stories that I've just scrapped because it just didn't reach the threshold that I wanted. But beyond that, it's how long does it take to tell this story? And that's it. I don't have any kind of, I can't force it to be. If I tried forcing it to be like an hour long, then that could end up being a 30-minute story with 30 minutes of filler added. And because I'm going to edit it, I might have to have 40 minutes of filler added that's completely irrelevant, and perhaps wouldn't flow right because it's not part of anything, if that makes sense. So I can't, and I won't put myself under the pressure of trying to force a long story. I tried that back in 2018 when I got lots of people saying, oh, we want long stories, we want long stories. And so I said, okay, then every time I hit 1,000 new subscribers, I'll do a long story for you as a thank you for the 1,000 new subscribers. And I did that for a while, but found it so stressful trying to force myself every month-ish to do that long story, that I just end up having to say, look, I'm going to stop this. A story will be what it is. And I had to go back to that. Um, glad the stories have been helpful. Yeah, my old stories do all have longer pauses than my newer ones. So nothing else has changed. Everything that happens prior to processing is exactly the same. I still record it, like when I'm doing this live one that I'll do here in a few minutes. So I'm going to have to speed myself up a bit here. When I do the live ones, it's exactly the same. I do it exactly as I would. I don't shrink the pauses live. I do it exactly as I would if I was doing it face to face with someone. And it's only when it comes to processing that I've then ever edited the pauses down, for the benefit of the fact that I get so many complaints nowadays from people about the pauses and about me talking funny, because obviously I'm doing a meditation. So the idea is that if you want to say, just take a moment to relax, you say it in a relaxed way. You don't say, take a moment to relax. It just doesn't obviously flow. So, and people who find my channel thinking it's just me reading a story, end up thinking, I don't want a meditation, I want a story, and then they complain about that. But that I can't change because that's not what I'm doing. But I can change the pauses. So I try not to get too hung up on it. But when you see lots of people complaining about something, you end up thinking, okay, maybe lots of people feel that way, but it could just be that actually it's a very vocal minority who complain and not actually the majority. So there's always that kind of trying to weigh up, because all I'm trying to ever do is make everyone else happy, and do what everyone's asking for. Yeah. Right. I see a few ideas already springing up. So I'm going to start writing some down because I've talked too much. I think there was something right at the top, but I don't want to scroll all the way back to the top to find out what it was. I'm sure there was an idea someone suggested. So if someone wants to have a look and post it at the bottom, that might help. Right, magical. Where have I just seen it? Magical spring. Oh yeah, I did that the other day in one of my recent stories, I think. Magical spring. Orwell. Ah, I'm just thinking of George Orwell now because I've just said Orwell, but that's just my brain. Um, a well was mentioned. Magical spring and well was mentioned in the Facebook group as an idea for the last story that I was going to do based on ideas of yourselves. And I've actually made a story with that. I just haven't uploaded it yet and edited it, and haven't edited it and uploaded it yet. But I have actually done that. I'll do it again. But yeah, it just suddenly crossed my mind. I was thinking, where do I recognise that from? And I did it, telling a story about being on a ranch. There's scorpions in it because I think someone said to have some scorpions in it, but I think you were talking about eating scorpions. So I ignored the eating. I just put the scorpions in because I think the conversation went off about food and weird food. Magical spring or well. Da, 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 da. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to make a playlist of the meditations with long pauses because I wouldn't. I'd have to listen to each one to find them. And basically, one way to know is, has the story been on my channel prior to 2019? If it has, then it will have a longer pause. It will have longer pauses. If it was added late so when I started back doing just the stories in September 2019, anything from September 2019 onwards has had shorter pauses. Anything prior to that was the pause was what it was, and only occasionally would I edit the pause down a bit. Yep, sitting with silence is a powerful thing. I do kind of mention about the pauses at the beginning and how they'll help you to sleep faster, but I get enough grief already at the fact I spend 30 seconds at the beginning of my videos saying, sort of, thank you for watching this. If you like it, click like. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe. This is what I do. So I try and just doing that little bit gets enough complaints as it is. I ignore the complaints, obviously, because people don't subscribe generally unless you put the idea in their mind. It made a vast difference when I started doing that. Literally dozens and dozens of more subscribers every day just because of mentioning it at on a video. The same with likes. You get dozens more likes on a video just because you've mentioned it. I'm echoing. That's a bit weird. I hope that's just for you. Although I do like echoes. Oh, whole lot on echo. Let's have a look. Yeah, I now no longer make sort of anything focusing on any other therapeutic thing because they're really unpopular and no one ever watched them. I do have lots covering things like eating, and I've got things like weight loss, self-hypnosis, weight loss videos and stuff like that. Ducks and hourglass. Ducks, hourglass. See, I haven't done this for a while, so I think it was the beginning of January last time I did this. And so I'm not very good with my time management here tonight, so I apologise for that. Other worlds. Other world. Now, one problem I have is reading my own handwriting. Eclipse. Yeah, I didn't expect my the story around the vintage fashion store to get so much grief. But Baby elephant, that was the one at the beginning. This one won't have fairy wings though. A friendly witch. Friendly witch. Ancient Greece. Let's see what I can do. A fairy garden. Apologies to anyone who is watching this afterwards and thinking, Dan, you said you're starting at past. Oh yeah, walnuts. I got walnuts also in the other one. Snow globe. Oh, just jumped forward something. Let's have a look. Water reflecting on walls. Watching shapes in clouds. A wooden tree swing. I generally don't do the live stuff, or at least I stopped, but I'm here at the moment, so it is what it is. Uh, I There was a few people who'd commented. There was one person who obviously kept engaging in it, but there's a few people who commented in different places about it. Yoga retreat. Oh yes, I had the redwoods and portals and things. Right. Any other ideas before I start? Just put something behind my back so that I can slouch a bit. A peacock. Right. Anything else? I've got a bit of a list, as you can see. I think this is the 16th one of these. Sea otters. Yeah. I will share a link to this video in the community tab in the Facebook group. I might even leave it live. I know I always lose loads of subscribers when I leave things live, but I might leave this live and see what happens. So yeah, you can always come back and catch it. Right, peacocks, sea otters. See, so this is how I do therapy, essentially, except I don't write things down. I listen to the client and then just talk back at them. An Indian temple. Yeah, the Dragon's Fire one obviously is a completely different type of story. I've got a few dragon ones that are similar-ish, but that's the only one that has significant violence and stuff in. And I did wonder if anyone would be here, given I didn't give much notice. Right. that's probably enough to create something with. See how it goes. So I've got a bunch of ideas. I'll just have a swig of water and then I'll begin. Only 10 minutes late. Because there's nothing worse than when I'm desperate to cough or something and I've got a really dry mouth or something. And I'm doing something like this. Right. Where can I put my pad? I'll rest it on my leg. So, because I am recording this there, I've got a mic now that's off screen, as well as obviously telling it to you live. What I'll do is edit this afterwards, so edit the recording, because that's going to be much better sound quality than what's being picked up through the webcam. So I always edit the recording and I'll upload that as a separate video all on its own at some point, maybe next week or something, I don't know, but at some point. So anyone who wants to listen to this can listen to it during, by listening to this back, but you can also wait if you want a sort of cleaned up version of this. You can wait and listen to that once I upload it, and the description will say that it was this recording, and I'll obviously say it when I share it. So yeah, get yourself comfortable. But because I'm recording this specifically also to be able to edit it, if things like motorbikes go past, I just end up stopping temporarily while the motorbike goes past, because then I can edit that out, like one just did. And if I make an error or something, I often just say the same thing again but correctly. Yes, so let me put that here. So if you're I wish I could block off the streets. I often say that if I was a millionaire, I would be the worst kind of millionaire, because I would ask for the streets wherever I'm going to be cleared and blocked off for my arrival, so that I don't have to keep running into people. So anyway, probably a good thing I'm not a millionaire. So just take a moment to allow your eyes to close and allow yourself to begin to relax. And I don't know whether you'll relax deeper with the sound of my voice, or whether it'll be with the spaces between my words. And as you take a moment to begin to comfortably drift asleep, I'm just going to tell this sleep meditation in the background. You can have a sense of walking through a park on a warm summer's day. You can hear the sound of your footsteps on the path, sounds of people talking in the background, children playing, sounds of dogs running around, sounds of birds in the trees. And the rustling leaves. And as you walk around that park, you can begin to hear the sound of ducks in the distance. And you can head toward the sound of the ducks. And as you get closer to the ducks, so you notice a large pond in the middle of this park. And you can find a bench next to that pond. Take a moment to relax down onto that bench, feeling the warmth of the sun on your face, gazing out over the pond, seeing some children feeding the ducks with their parents, seeing some ducks running on the water as they take off, and then noticing a large swan swoop down, put its legs forward, and splash down through that water, and then pulling in its wings and swimming along so gracefully on the surface of the water. And perhaps you can watch a couple of swans, maybe wondering whether, just for a moment, they'll move into a position where, from your perspective, it almost looks like their heads and necks make a heart. Even if that heart lasts just a moment as the swans pass each other by. And while you relax there on that bench, you can close your eyes a moment and listen to the people walking past. And in your mind's eye, try and work out what kind of a person it is from the sound of their footsteps, what kind of height they are from the spacing between their footsteps, what kind of size they are from the tone of the footsteps, whether they've got a pushchair with them, or whether they're walking with perhaps a dog. And just honing your senses, just practicing relaxing and being in the moment, being able to focus on just one thing, almost imagining in your mind's eye the reality that's outside of your mind, picturing where those people are in space. So that you can have a sense of being able to just open up your eyes and gaze straight at where you know they are, and see if you're correct about the idea of the type of person you thought was walking past. And you can do this to really help focus on being in the moment. And then after a while, you can lie back on that bench a little, almost slouching on the bench, as if to absorb more of the sun's rays on your face, just that warmth on your face, a little bit more evenly. And then choosing to watch the clouds go by, and open your eyes and gazing at the clouds, and feeling the day being so relaxing, taking time to just focus on the activities you're doing, rather than having your mind wander to the future or the past or to elsewhere in the present, but holding that attention on the here and now. And noticing that the clouds can take many forms. Perhaps a frog jumping over a cat, or a dog sitting with its tongue hanging out. And you can notice a couple of clouds moving apart and realize that there's a horse up there in the sky. But the horse is actually the space between the clouds. That as those clouds move apart, so for just a few moments, they leave an empty space in the shape of a horse. And you notice that sometimes it's not what's there that is something. Sometimes something is the nothing that's there. And you can stand up from that bench and walk across the grass in the park. You walk into the shade. You find a space under a tree. You sit down on the ground, resting your back gently against the tree. And you can feel the cool breeze here under the tree, hearing the rustling leaves of the tree. Feeling the cool grass under your fingertips. And you rest back, close your eyes, and begin to drift comfortably into a reverie. Just drifting and letting your mind wander, going deeper and deeper inside your mind. And as you begin to drift deeper inside your mind, so you start to hear sounds of a marketplace. You start to hear sounds of horse and cart, and you start to become aware of being in a whole new place. A place that's hot and dry, with a busy market. And you find yourself standing up and walking through that market, taking in sights and sounds and smells. Wondering where this place is. And at the far end of the market, you see a man dressed in purple with a table, and the only thing on that table is an hourglass. And you walk over to that person, feeling almost compelled to visit them. And they gesture to a seat by their table. You take a seat. They draw your attention to the hourglass. Then they very slowly turn that over and have you watch that sand flowing down into the bottom of the hourglass. And you find all of your attention focused on that sand. And even though it's contained within a glass, you have this sense of being able to feel its smoothness. You almost have that sensation of cool and smooth sand running through your fingertips, even though you're just watching an hourglass. Watching the way the sand pours through, almost like a liquid. And the way the grains of sand flow down that pyramid of sand being created. And as you continue to focus on that hourglass, so you notice everything around you beginning to fade, as if there's only you and the hourglass. And then you notice that sand seeming to spread out, almost like a desert spreading from the hourglass around where you're sat. As the table fades away, as that man fades away, as the structure of the hourglass fades away, and a pyramid of sand spreads out and forms into a desert land. And you find yourself stood in a desert. You begin to walk around this desert. You keep thinking that you see lakes and see water, but as you head to it, so it seems to vanish. Then eventually, you see this really old stone well, and you wonder whether it's real. And you walk towards that stone well, so happy that you found water. You lower the bucket down into the well. You hear the bucket strike the water deep in the well, and can feel the weight of that water as you reel that bucket back up. You can almost smell the water, that fresh smell. And you start drinking that water. And as you do, some of it splashes around the side of your face. Some of it pours down your chin, onto your clothes, because you're trying to drink out of a bucket. And you can feel that cool water flowing down your throat, almost healing through your body. And some of that water splashes onto the ground around your feet. And you don't notice at first, but that water seems to have magical properties. And as you continue to drink that water, and it continues to splash on the ground and around you, you start to get this sense that you've just noticed some green out the corner of your eye. And so you stop drinking for a moment. You look down, you look around you. You notice that where the water has splashed, grass is rapidly springing up and other flowers, and it's spreading out from the well, filling this desert with greenery, with grassland, with trees. And then out of the trees you notice different animals. And as you continue to look around you, you see that you seem to be stood on a large plain, large area of grassland. Seems to be a lake in the distance, dense forest. And you see some enormous elephants thud past you, feeling the ground vibrate, feeling a breeze as they flap their ears. And then following along behind those large elephants who are striding so confidently and slowly, and yet seeming to move so fast. You see this tiny little elephant hanging on to the tail of the elephant in front with its trunk, with its legs rapidly moving to keep up, almost looking like it's got a certain level of confidence. You read into its behavior that it's almost as if that elephant has a sense of being proud to be hanging onto that tail and following along and keeping up. And although these elephants look like familiar elephants, you feel that there's something strange about this place. You can't quite put your finger on what. And as the sun begins to set, you go into the forest, you gather some wood, and then just a little way from the entrance to the forest, you light yourself a campfire, still curious about where you are, about the experience you're having. And as the sun sets and the sky turns the most beautiful orange, you notice those first stars appearing in the sky. And then you're surprised to see two moons overhead, neither of which looks familiar. And it almost looks like there's a moon overhead, and that the other moon looks like it's circling that moon, like the moon itself has a moon. And you lie back and gaze up at the stars, looking for familiar constellations, and find that the stars look like stars, but none of them seem to be positioned how you're familiar with. And that moon orbiting the moon seems to be orbiting quite fast, because you notice as the night goes on that you can see that it is moving closer to the moon and then behind the moon. And then later in the night, you see it coming out the other side of the moon and beginning to move round to go in front of the moon. A bit like the way that when you look at the hour hand on a clock for long enough, you notice its movements, but look for just a short time. And it's easy to think it's not moving. And as that moon passes in front of the other moon, so you notice the quality of the light reflecting off the moon change, almost like a strange eclipse. That the sunlight is obviously shining onto the moon. The moon is eclipsing on the moon it's passing over. But it's also impacting some of that reflected light back down to you here watching. And you watch with fascination all night long. And then in the morning, as the sun begins to rise, so it turns out that the main moon passes across part of the disk of this sun just at the point it's rising. And then the second moon passes across another bit of the sun as the main moon is further over the sun. And you notice this isn't like an eclipse on Earth, where you live in a time where the sun and the moon are just the right distances and just the right sizes to do total eclipses. This is a strange kind of three-way eclipse. And you wonder if there's ever a time where this planet, both moons, and the sun all line up. And what kind of an eclipse that would be. And as the sun rises, so you hear birds singing around you. You notice more animals coming out, going back down to the lake, as all the life here begins to wake up. And you're still curious about where this place is, and curious about how you'll find your way back home. And you have this vague idea that this could all be a dream, because you remember lying down under a tree, but it feels more real than any dream you've had before, and more complex, and you're more lucid than in any dream you've had before. And so you trust things will work out, and that for now you'll just explore, enjoy the experience. And so you walk into the forest, decide to see what's in the forest. And the deeper into the forest you walk, the more sounds from outside the forest become muffled and more distant. And you begin to hear specific bird sounds that you didn't hear quite so much outside the forest. You can't really feel the breeze because the trees block a lot of the wind, but you can hear the rustling leaves. And after a while of following a path through the forest, you notice the way it splits in two, and you have to make a decision which to follow. And you take a look at both paths, and you decide on a path to take. And you know whatever's down this path, you can discover with curiosity. You walk further and further until you eventually find a clearing. And in this clearing, you see a stone building with a wooden roof. You can see some smoke coming out of the chimney, and the most beautiful, if slightly overgrown garden, all contained behind a wooden fence. You walk up to the garden, open the gate, walk into the garden. You close the gate behind you. You can smell the flowers in this garden. You can notice butterflies and other insects flying in and out of the different plants. You walk up to the front door of this house, knock on the door, and after a few moments, a woman answers the door, invites you in. You head into the house. She directs you to a seat at a table, and she tells you that she can know things about a person that people don't realize she knows. She says that there are times when you appear confident to others, and yet inside you just want to run away. There are times that you appear happy, and yet you'd like to cry. There are times when you do things you'd rather not do because you know it'll make others happy, and you feel like somehow you're being selfish or perhaps guilty if you decided to do your own thing instead. And you're surprised how well this woman seems to know you. And she says that sometimes you'll try and fall asleep, and yet, no matter how hard you try, your brain just keeps thinking, going over different things. Or your body seems to suddenly get restless for no reason. Or you start to suddenly notice every little distraction and just wish that your brain could focus elsewhere and just shut it all off for a while and let you sleep. And she explains that she's a witch and that she helps people who are looking for ways to achieve something in their future, who know something that they don't really want about who or how they are, something that with just the right potion, it can just trigger something inside them to begin to take a different path, make different decisions, think about things in a different way. And while the witch is telling you all this, they're mixing up a potion in a stereotypical cauldron. And you can see that bubbling away. See some smoke and mist around the cauldron. See a slight glow from within the cauldron. And then that glow becomes greener and greener. And then with a ladle, she scoops out some of the liquid. She pours it into a glass. She comes over to the table, places the glass down beside you. And you look at that bright green liquid. And she gestures for you to drink. And something about the situation and about this witch just helps you to feel trusting of her. And it smells really nice. And it's still got a slight white mist hovering over that green liquid. So you pick that liquid up, you pick up the glass, you blow the white mist off the top of the liquid, and you gulp back that liquid. And you feel it almost like a healing sensation passing through your body, passing through your mind, calming you, relaxing you, helping you to know what to focus on in different situations. And she tells you that that healing liquid is passing through you, and it'll help you to sleep. It'll help you to know when to focus on the here and now, when to focus on other things. And it'll help all these things that you know how to do already to happen instinctively and heal from within you. And you feel yourself relaxing with that drink. And the witch suggests that you go out in the back garden with them, get some fresh air, while that drink is working its magic. And so you follow her out into the back garden. And you see the most beautiful garden, the most beautiful flowers. And you notice something strange. You notice that among the flowers seem to be dozens of fairies, no bigger than your thumb. And they have the most beautiful buzz to them as they dart around, just with the most perfect pitch. And you notice the way that their wings seem to be incandescent, the way the wings catch the light, and the colours of those wings dancing behind the fairies. And they all seem to be so happy and peaceful. And the witch explains that they help with getting the right ingredients, doing the right pollinating, and creating the flowers that only exist for witches to use. And as you relax in that garden, so you feel your head relaxing, your neck, your shoulders relaxing, almost like with each breath, that green potion relaxes and deepens through you, your chest relaxing, your back relaxing, your stomach relaxing, your legs relaxing, all the way down to your feet relaxing, your arms relaxing, your hands relaxing. Feeling so relaxed, you just want to close your eyes and relax even further. And as your eyes begin to close, so you catch a glimpse of a peacock at the far end of the garden as it spreads its tail feathers and almost seems to shake them in your direction as your eyes flutter closed while you rest on that bench, listening to the sounds in the garden. And the witch just sits and relaxes, and just watches while you have your experience, while you drift into your healing experience. And she knows you just need to take a moment to go inside, facilitate that inner healing through your mind and body. And she's just there to be a supportive guide, and that there's no need for you to pay attention to her while you're paying attention inside. And as you drift inside, so you begin to find yourself lying down, listening to someone giving instructions, and you realize you're in an Indian temple, and that this seems to be some kind of a yoga retreat. And then you discover yourself moving into a different pose, almost as if the instructions that are being given are being followed automatically by your body, as if somehow you just instinctively know what to do. And then with another instruction, you change pose again. And in your mind, it's almost like you're an observer on what your body's doing. And you're thinking to yourself about how some of these poses are poses that you didn't even know your body could do. And yet somehow, when you're not thinking about it, and not overanalyzing it and telling yourself you can't do it, your body seems to be able to, as your body changes pose again. And then you hear a bell get rung, and almost feel the sound of that bell reverberate through you as you change pose again. And you notice that there's a number of you here at this retreat, and that you're all doing the same. And you gaze at the other people, and you wonder what their experience of this is, whether they're having the same experience as you. And then you hear a bell and another instruction, and your body moves to another pose. And then you hear a deeper and longer bell, and an instruction given with a deeper tone of voice. And you take on a pose where you close your eyes and just hold that pose and hold that focus on that sound, hearing every last bit of that sound. And then having the sound played again. And with each time the sound plays, so you have this feeling like you're going even deeper and deeper into the experience. And then, when the sound sounds the deepest, you begin to notice yourself opening your eyes with that witch beside you again. And she welcomes you back to the garden. And she has the most comforting look to her. And she suggests that you take a moment to stand up and walk with her. And you walk down into the garden. You walk past the fairies, the flowers, smelling the myriad of different smells, almost like a pleasant assault for the smell, for all those, walking deeper into the garden. And right at the back of the garden, you notice this wall, and it's a brick wall, and there seems to be water trickling down that wall into a small pond at the foot of the wall. And hanging in a tree near that pond is a glitter ball. And the witch says, just wait a moment. And she spins that glitter ball just very gently. And it spins one way, and then it unwinds and spins back and unwinds. And just then the sun catches that glitter ball, sending beams of light onto that wall of water, creating some rainbow effects through the water. And down by that pool of water, and reflecting, illuminating that water. And on a plain wall, where that brick wall curves around, you can see the dancing reflection of the pool of water. And the dancing light beams from the glitter ball. And every now and then, the witch gently spins that glitter ball some more and tells you just to keep watching the dancing light. And you carry on watching that dancing light. And as you do, so this reality begins to fade. And as it begins to fade, she tells you to take the healing with you and to allow that healing to continue working with each and every breath that you take. And you begin to hear the sounds of the occasional dog barking, children playing. You begin to get this sense of waking underneath that tree in that park. You stand up. You have this curiosity about the experience you've just had. And you walk through the park while you ponder the experience. And you see a rope swing that some children have obviously built at some point. And you almost feel this compulsion to have a sense of being youthful. So you put the swing between your legs. You push yourself off and you swing out and round. under the tree. You can hear the branch overhead creaking a little as it swings, and the leaves rustle a bit more as you swing backwards and forwards, moving your legs to help with that swing. You begin to get into a nice rhythmic, and you begin to get into a nice rhythmic motion, swinging those legs backwards and forwards. And as you do, you notice something strange. You notice that it feels like it's starting to snow. And you look around you and you notice that the ground is beginning to become covered in snow. And you stop the swinging, curious why it's suddenly snowing on such a sunny day. And you walk down towards the lake. And you see what seems to be a glass dome overhead. And then you hear this sound like someone's winding up something mechanical. And then you start to hear some tinny music. And you have this sense that you must still be in some kind of reverie, still having some kind of experience. As you realize you're inside a snow globe, and that you can see from inside this snow globe as you look towards the glass wall, that there's a bedroom and that you're on a desk. And there's a child in bed sleeping. You can see the moonlight shining in through the curtains, the other side of the child's bed. You can notice the gentle movement of the net curtains in the breeze as the windows just very slightly open in that child's room. You realize that that child would have a different perspective on this to you. And that it's easy to think that where you are is all there is, before you discover there's something else out there that can be explored. And you start to wonder how you're going to end up back under that tree. And as you wonder that, you find yourself back under that tree again, waking up. And you walk back down to the lake again. And you wonder how you'll know whether you're fully awake now or not. You feel this has been an unusual experience, but know your unconscious has obviously been teaching, educating you, and taking you on a journey. You pick up a stone, you throw it into the water, you hear that plop as it falls through the water. You walk around the lake, you put your hand in the water, and feel the temperature of that water. And you decide that this feels like you're back to normality. You're back where you started. You look up at the sky. You see those clouds overhead. You notice that the sun is now beginning to set. And so you head home, and your whole journey home, you wonder about the experience, about how multi-layered this experience has been. And during your journey, you try to unpick some of that in your mind about the meaning, and find that the more you try to unpick the experience, the deeper and deeper you go into the experience. And so you just wait until you're home. And that night, you settle down in bed and you think to yourself about the experience you've had. And you decide to begin to analyze the experience from the start. You start to imagine what it was like when you were walking through that park, seeing the ducks, the swans, watching the clouds overhead, going and relaxing under a tree. And you find that as you take yourself on this mental journey, thinking through the experience you've had, with each step of this mental journey, you find yourself becoming deeper and deeper relaxed, finding your body relaxing, your mind relaxing. And no sooner have you fallen asleep under that tree, you find yourself falling asleep in real life, drifting and floating so comfortably asleep. And no matter how hard you try to think through the whole story, to think through the whole journey you went on, the harder you try to keep following the journey, the quicker and deeper asleep you find yourself going, and relaxing asleep.